Did you ever envision yourself walking the hallways of Sweet Valley High with Elizabeth and Jessica Wakefield? Or did you ever state the refrain, we must increase our bust when you were a preteen? If so, you might be a Xennial, and we are too. Hi there, I am Dani.
Hi, I'm Katie.
And if you couldn't figure it out from my little intro here, today we are going to go down the memory walk again, but this time we're going to talk about some of our memorable books.
Yes.
Okay, from the 80s, 90s time frame.
Yes, and I started doing the move.
She did.
As soon as she started saying, we must, I started anyway, Google it if you don't know what it is. I was doing it.
And probably some younger people may know that anyways because of the movie version that came out. But
yes,
we're going to talk about something beloved to my heart today, which is books. I love books. I've always loved books. I've always been a huge, ginormous bookworm and reader. So Katie and I wrote down some of our favorite books and or authors, that we're gonna chat about. But first, before we dive into the pages here, we're gonna do some shout outs, some circle backs. So go ahead, Katie.
Okay, well, first of all, hello to all our Jennifers.
Hey, Jennifers.
Jennifers, that is Jens and Jennifers, and even our Patricks are Jennifers. So if you're new, that's what our fans are called on this show. Although your name probably is actually Jennifer if you're here. So hello to all of them. Wanted to give a shout out to our listener, Jacob. He's been really enjoying the show, and he's in his 20s, early 20s. And so he showed me some of his favorite Happy Meal toys when I saw him recently. So they were a little bit past what we talked about in our Happy Meals episode. However, they all had wheels. All had wheels. Even the Legos had wheels. And then I wanted to give a shout out to Jordan, who says he listens to us on repeat at work. So
I love that.
He's also in his 20s. So correct. Shout out to the Jennifers in their 20s because we're here for it.
I love that all these people younger, we're retro, right? We're cool now because we're retro. So.
Exactly. And they're probably learning a lot, honestly.
Or not. But either way, they're
or the opposite, yeah. Entertained is what we want. You have any over there?
So I'm going to circle back and give a shout out. So we have a new listener named Amanda. Woo. Amanda is just living here in Florida temporarily because she is about to star as Diana, Princess Diana.
Oh my God.
Diana, the musical at the Henniker. So quick little commercial. I don't know when we're airing this episode, but it will be before.
It'll be before Diana's done.
So you can, I'm also in it too, just in the ensemble. So I wasn't planning on telling you that, but here we are. So Amanda she started listening to our episodes and thankfully corrected us on a very important piece of info.
Oh gosh.
Rugrats.
Oh.
We mess up those characters big time. So thank you, Amanda, for fixing our errors, and I will tell you what they are right now. So we did not correctly name our Rugrats characters on our 90s trivia part 2. Right?
Yeah.
So hold on, I wrote it down so I wouldn't mess up. She fixed us on our social on Instagram, so you can go see this
her comment,
if I get it wrong. Hopefully I get this right. So Dill was Tommy's baby brother. Remember, we said it was.
What did I say? They were one of the twins, the twin friends.
Twins' names were Phil and Lil.
Oh.
I thought it was his dad. The dad's name was Stu.
Yes, I feel that now.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I don't remember a Rugrats with a baby brother on it. So I'm wondering what season that came in. Maybe I just missed it because I do not remember that.
Yeah.
But Dill was short for Dylan.
Okay.
And it's funny because their last name was Pickles.
Oh my God.
Or was it Pickles?
Yeah, Pickles with an S.
Dill Pickles.
Dill Pickles was not one of the twins. Dill Pickles was baby brother, son of Stu, brother of Tommy. Oh my gosh, I can't believe we got that wrong. How embarrassing.
So correct info there. And thanks, Amanda. You are going to be amazing as royalty on stage. So anyway, thanks to all our listeners. Please always correct us because we are not above reproach.
We are not. Please call us out if there's something that needs it. So on to books, I guess.
On to books.
You want to go first?
Sure. So this one, I have to say, was so fun, but so hard in a good way because It's hard to narrow it down because I was a big reader. And I don't know if you did this, but I would reread books. Did you do that?
No, I am not a rereader. And with movies, I'm generally not a rewatcher.
I don't know why I love to do this, but my kids, well, my teenager doesn't read as much anymore, but my younger one does this all the time. He has reread like series many times, but even just like standalone books, he has reread and reread. So I think it's like an anxiety comfort thing. Like, what's coming. I don't do it now. Like the thought of rereading a book now stresses me out. Like, unless it's been one I haven't read in like decades. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
As I was like writing down these books, I was like, I kind of want to go back and read some of them.
Yeah.
Just to see if I still feel the same as I do. But anyway, so my number one memorable book, well, it's not a book, author. My number one memorable author from probably the late 80s time frame, I would say, was Judy Blume.
Yes.
Okay.
Love her.
I loved her so much because she took like big issues that was like affecting kids and teens and like wrote about them pretty honestly. I felt like, well, to me, it felt honest. And even though like one of my two, I have like her as an author, and then I have a few of her books that I loved. Okay. So I'm going to tell you like what they were about and why I loved them. Even though her books were published like in the early 70s, the ones I loved so much, I still felt like they were super relevant to me, a decade or so later. I guess even more than a decade later, right? So the first one was, who you heard us quote in the beginning, was, "Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret."
Yes.
Yeah. Did you read that?
I read that one. I loved that book.
I feel like if you were a prepubescent female in the 80s or 90s, you totally read this book.
Yes.
Right? I just feel like you probably did. So here's the official summary, which was really cute to like go back and read because they were just written a little different. So here's the summary if you don't know what this book's about. Margaret Simon, almost 12, likes long hair, tuna fish, the smell of rain, and things that are pink. She just moved from New York City to Farbrook, New Jersey, and is anxious to fit in with her new friends, Nancy, Gretchen, and Janie. When they form a secret club to talk about private subjects like boys, bras, and getting their first periods, Margaret is happy to belong. But none of them can believe Margaret doesn't have religion and that she isn't going to the Y or the Jewish Community Center. What they don't know is Margaret has her own very special relationship with God. She can talk to God about everything. Family, friends, even Moose Freed, her secret crush. Margaret is funny and real, and her thoughts and feelings are oh so relatable. You'll feel like she's talking right to you, sharing her secrets with a friend.
Oh, I love that.
I know.
Although I also feel like if you have to say she's relatable, is she? I don't know.
Is she?
That was the only part I was like, I
know.
But yeah, wow, that's a great encapsulation.
And it makes you remember parts of the book, right?
It does.
Yeah. It's so, they talked about, I remember the funniest thing though, reading that book in later years was when and you can probably remember this, is when they talked about periods and like how they had to wear the menstrual belts and stuff. And I was like, what is that? I remember going to ask my mom, like, what are they talking about? Because obviously they didn't have the kind of like, just like maxi pad situation that we had.
Yeah.
Right.
I think I also was unsure what that meant. Yeah.
For those of y'all who don't know, your menstrual, I don't want to say device. Well, yeah, it was kind of.
Yeah, kind of.
Before they had adhesive on the bottom of menstrual pads, like disposable menstrual pads, they had these belts that like hooked on, and they were reusable, right?
I think so. Yeah.
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 And I mean, we're getting back now to where we're starting to use more reusable things and all the things, but we have like snaps and Velcro and stuff, which they didn't have then.
Right. So they didn't use that.
They had these like belt things that you had to learn how to put on.
It was a whole thing.
Yeah, it was a whole thing.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that funny? Like that's what I remember about that.
Yeah.
And I loved that book because again, I felt like it was like the book was written as Margaret's point of view. She's talking to God. In a very informal, very honest way. And it wasn't really a book about any kind of certain religion because she's not a religious person. She doesn't identify. I might be remembering this incorrectly. I want to say she, like, one of her parents was a Christian and one of them was Jewish. Is that wrong?
Yeah, no, I think that's right.
So she doesn't really know what she believes, if anything. But she kind of uses God as like her confidant and like her therapist almost.
Yeah. At least, and I recently saw the movie, which was very good, I thought.
I haven't watched it. I need to.
Really good. But it has Rachel McAdams as her mom.
Oh, that makes me feel so old.
But she's like older than us, so.
Is she?
I think so. Or our age. I'm going to look it up. Not right this minute.
Still makes me feel old.
But in the movie, her mom was a Christian and her dad was Jewish, and her mom's parents had disowned her.
Oh, I forgot about that piece.
And so when she would go visit her grandma, Margaret's close to her grandma in the book.
Right.
So she was kind of entrenched in Jewish culture. She would go to temple and stuff.
That's right.
And then they kind of have like a moment where she basically says to her grandmother, like, I love you, but I don't know what religion I am, basically.
Which is so honest. And I love that.
And her grandma's like fine with it, but it's like a moment in the book.
Yeah. But I loved it because she was just very real. Like and I loved that she was like, are you there? Like, hello, are you there? It's me. Like, yeah. It was, anyway, I love that book.
That's a great book.
That was one of my Judy Blume books. Another one, I'm like going back and forth about whether I should talk about this, but I remember I reread this one a lot. And I think it's one, if I reread now, I would think was hella problematic. But I don't know if you even know of this book, but there's a name of a book that Judy Blume wrote in 1974 called Blubber.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I did read that one.
Once I read you the summary, you may
come back.
It's about bullying and teasing. And like I mentioned, I went through a lot as a kid and a preteen and then as a teenager, but on the flip side. So I went through a lot of teasing and then I was the one doing the teasing.
Oh, yeah. Don't you hate that?
Yeah. It's kind of yucky to think about.
I mean, like, me too. I've been there too. Right. I'm not throwing you under the bus. Yeah.
No. But, what I was teased the most about when I was a kid and preteen was my weight or my appearance. And that is what is kind of the focus of one of the characters in the book that gets teased.
Interesting. So check out our part 1, at least. Yes. Fitness culture that Dani's the expert on, if you haven't listened to it yet.
Yeah. So I guess I reread it many times because I could relate to being teased for that. And the interesting piece with this book is the narrator, her name's Jill. She begins as part of the bullying and then the tables turn and her friends bully her.
Okay.
So it's like both sides of the coin there. So here's the summary and maybe you'll remember.
Okay.
Blubber is a good name for her, the note from Wendy says about Linda. Jill crumples it up and leaves it on the corner of her desk. She doesn't want to think about Linda or her dumb report on the whale just now. Jill wants to think about Halloween. But Robbie grabs the note, and before Linda stops talking, it has gone halfway around the room. That's where it all starts. There's something about Linda that makes a lot of kids in her 5th grade class want to see how far they can go. But nobody, least of all Jill, expects the fun to end where it does. Boom, boom, boom.
I mean, I guess you would have to see if the intricacies of the book are problematic, but on surface value, I feel like that was relatable to me growing up, and I think it would maybe be relatable now too.
Yeah, like I said, I can't remember the details of this book. The only reason I wrote it down is because I remember rereading it a lot.
There's something to that when something you read or watch brings you that comfort.
Yes.
And really makes you feel seen. I think that's really important. I think it's good to reassess those as we like go through life and be like, oh, but like, was that correct? Was that not? But there's something to that.
Yeah.
I
think there probably is some problematic stuff at the end because I want to say the little girl, because they're in 5th grade. So it's like that puberty time, your body is weird. I may be confusing this with another book. I think the little girl they were making fun of starts losing the weight and I think I don't know. I'll have to go back.
Right.
But I loved that book. But then I'm going to move on real quick because the other books that Judy Blume wrote was a series. And it was about a boy named Peter and his little brother named Fudge.
Oh.
Did you ever read any of the Fudge books? Oh my, who would love them was B. Tegan.
Okay.
So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. There's 5 books. The first book in the series is Tales of a 4th Grade Nothing. And like I said, it's about Peter, and he has this little mischievous brother named, what is his name? His name is like Farley, but they call him Fudge for some reason.
Okay. I was like, isn't he Fudge? Okay.
But they call him Fudge. And like, it's sweet and funny, and Fudge is a mess. Like, he is mischievous, but loves his big brother. And so there's Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing, then otherwise known as Sheila the Great, then Super Fudge, then Fudge-a-mania, and then Double Fudge. So Double Fudge came out in 2002. So she wrote these for a long time, or she stopped and then revisited later.
Okay.
My kids loved these books.
Okay.
They loved them. And it was, do you know, like when you had a beloved book as a kid and then you get to share it with your kids?
Yeah.
I loved that they loved it because, but they're funny. So like, listen to the summary. Okay. This is for the first book. Living with his little brother Fudge makes Peter Hatcher feel like a fourth grade nothing. Whether Fudge is throwing a temper tantrum in a shoe store, smearing mashed potatoes on the walls at Hamburger Heaven, or scribbling all over Peter's homework, he's never far from trouble. He is a 2-year-old terror who gets away with everything, and Peter's had enough. When Fudge walks off with Dribble, Peter's pet turtle, it is the last straw. Peter has put up with Fudge for too long. How can he get his parents to pay attention to him for a change?
Oh, I love it. I love it. Gosh, yeah, no, I never read those. I'm going to have to track those down at the library.
Was my very long number one.
Oh, I love it. Judy Blume deserves it. I mean, she's amazing. I think, her talking about these kind of normal things, but in a I don't know what the word is. I don't want to say non-conservative.
It's
but
like non-preachy way.
It's non-preachy and it's just normal. It's not like, oh, hey, guys, by the way, we're going to talk about
right.
bras in this book.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, we're at our meeting and we're talking about our bra sizes because that's what girls this age do.
Yeah.
And it's fine if you and your friends also talk about that.
Correct. And periods and
correct.
Boys.
Yeah.
And like starting to feel different feelings for other people.
Absolutely.
That you've never had before.
And what that feels like. And
correct.
Religion too.
What?
Just in religion too.
Yeah. Oh,
sure.
just
being like kind of an acceptance message without being very preachy. Just kind of putting it in a story. So my first one is also is a series. I have a few of them here. I'll have to read you the taglines on some of them. But mine you referenced in the intro as well. And these are the Jessica and Elizabeth Wakefield sagas written by Francine Pascal, the Sweet Valley High series.
Yes.
Now, whether or not you've read these or not, there's also Sweet Valley Twins, which is when they were younger. I think those came after.
Okay.
I think she wrote Sweet Valley High first, and then she was like, well, hey, people are reading this. And then they have a college years one too, which I'll talk about some of that. But so the official synopsis of this series, Sweet Valley High is a series of young adult novels attributed to American author. So there's more on that. Francine Pascal, who presided over a team of ghostwriters to produce the series. So she didn't write all these books, which is totally fine, by the way. But like they were written by a team of people. But she was kind of like almost like if it was a movie, she was sort of the executive producer. Like it was her storyline and her characters, but other people wrote them.
Interesting.
And the books chronicle the lives of identical twins, which it's so cool.
I know, right?
If you're not a twin, to like think about that and learn about their lives. Jessica and Elizabeth Wakefield, who live in a fictional Sweet Valley, California, a suburb near Los Angeles. The twins and their friends attend Sweet Valley High. So the series began in 1983 and it went for 20 years. Wow. 181 books just in that series.
That's crazy. I remember my sister read them and then I read the one she had because she's 7 years older than me.
Okay.
And I remember reading the ones she had and then buying new ones.
Yeah.
So that's cool. 20 years. Wow.
So I put in here, I literally grew up with these books.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was born in 82, and so they were being written as I was growing up. I just remember I was a big bookworm too. And my big thing on the weekends would be, this must have been before I was in a zillion activities as a teenager, just laying on my living room couch and reading. and I would read these books. I remember being sick one weekend and just doing that. And so the series was so popular, it spawned off several spin-offs as well as a television adaptation. There's also a film adaptation announced in July 2017, but I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, I don't remember.
So I'm going to need to see. And then there are also 2 novels that follow them as adults, which I've not read.
Really?
Yeah, called Sweet Valley Confidential and The Sweet Life, which follow the characters as adults. Those were published in 2011 and 2012. I got a little stack of books here. So the reason
I love
these
this.
are, I will preface, these are not my original books. I think they're at my parents' house somewhere, but one of my daughters really has trouble getting into fiction. Oh. And you have to read like a certain number of books. You can read nonfiction, but per, semester. And she's kind of my drama queen. And so a few years ago, I was like, I wonder if they're allowed to read Sweet Valley High. And it was on the list, like approved. So I bought her basically, not the whole series because there's 181 books. I think I bought her like 12 of them. She hasn't really read them though. She's not really into it. So I don't know. We're still on that search. But okay. So the very first one, the very first book was called Best Friends. Oh, you know what?
Let me see the cover.
These are Sweet Valley twins. These aren't even Sweet Valley High.
Oh, check
I did not know that.
I do remember those now that you're showing
this is when they were younger.
Will you look and see what year that is? Did you say that already?
No, I didn't. Let me look. Francine
I
Pascal.
remember those now, for real.
I guess I should look at my kids' books. 86.
Okay, I
86.
do remember those.
Okay, so the first Sweet Valley Twins book
is
called Best Friends. Tagline: Elizabeth is afraid she's losing her best friend, her twin sister.
Oh, no. Dun,
and then
dun, dun.
If you skip to book 10, one of the gang. Is Jessica really as perfect as she thinks she is?
Because wasn't their identities like total opposite, right?
Yeah, that's part of the storyline. So Elizabeth was sort of the like scholastic, really smart and into school and academic and excelled there, where Jessica was more like outgoing cheerleader. And so they kind of had some of the same friends, some of the different friends, in the Sweet Valley High books, they like totally different boys, like that sort of thing. So that's kind of the storyline too, and kind of the fun that they were the same person, but not really.
But not.
Yeah.
Which obviously, because they're 2 separate humans. So,
it kind of makes sense. But so those were mine.
I love that. I loved those books too. And I loved the cover art.
Yeah.
You remember?
So iconic. We'll have to put a picture. Well, I guess I have the twins, but it's the same design. It's the same aesthetic.
It is.
Yeah.
It's like hand-drawn, art. And they looked like my sister. My sister's blonde and blue-eyed. Yes. Okay. Oh, well, I thought they looked like her.
That's really cute.
I know. Isn't that funny?
Aww.
I'll have to see if I can find... She would kill me if I did this. I won't do that. But I was going to say, if I could find a picture of her in high school and compare it to
put it next to the cover.
To you.
Here we go.
I'll show you. I won't put it on socials.
I remember a friend of mine there was a board game.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like the mall or something, or different places from the book that your characters could go.
Like a Galleria or something.
Yeah. I don't remember much else about it, but I remember that. And it was really fun.
I love that.
I enjoyed it.
Okay, so full confession, admission. I totally thought you were going to have these other ones on your list.
Oh.
Do you have other series books on your list?
No.
Okay. That's why I didn't put them on mine.
Well, my last one kind of is, but I don't think you have it.
Okay, I'm about to say this then, because I didn't write it on my list. I'm totally cheating. We were only supposed to write down 3 things, and I wrote down way more. But since we're talking about series during the 80s and 90s, we have to say The Babysitter's Club.
Of course.
Right?
Yes. So, I don't have that on here, but yes.
You did?
I don't.
Okay.
No.
I was like, I totally thought one of us, I thought you were going to write it. So I was like, I'm not going to write it. So we'll talk about it for a second. So I actually while you were talking, I was like, let me pull this up because we have to mention it. So Babysitter's Club books, they were a series. They originally came out in 1986 through 2000. And that now I think they have like a revamped one because I've seen Cooper reading them.
Yeah, they have graphic novels too for that one.
Graphic novels. Yeah. They also, it said The novels were written by Anne Martin and published by Scholastic. Martin wrote an estimated 60 to 80 novels in the series, but then subsequential, is that right? Novels were written by ghostwriters.
Well, so that's the
same
thing.
kind of thing. I guess if you have a ginormous series where you're writing, 60 to 80 she wrote.
That's a lot. Yeah.
I would totally run out. But anyway, so Babysitter's Club books, we'll talk about it together for just a few seconds. It was about a group of friends, and they were living in fictional suburban town, because everything happens in the suburbs in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
Of Stony Brook, Connecticut. Also East Coast a lot, although
the twins were in LA.
Yeah, one of the coasts. One of the coasts there. And they run a local babysitting service called, obviously, the Babysitters Club. They had 4 original members. There was Christy, who was the founder and the president. They were Mary Ann, who was their secretary. There was Claudia, who was the vice president. I have a feeling that was mine and Katie's favorite.
Yeah.
And then Stacy, who is the treasurer. But then they have multiple members that varies off and on. And each novel was told like in a first person narrative. But they also dealt with issues such as illness, moving, divorce. All 4 of the girls have very distinct personalities. Yes. Claudia was the arty one, remember?
Yeah, she like made her own jewelry.
Yeah,
and
she had
stuff.
like really fun clothes, and like she was a painter, I think. And then like Christy, I don't remember. Was Christy like the sporty one? It's almost like the Spice Girls.
Kind of sporty.
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
I just remember Claudia because she was my favorite.
Mine too. I feel like Marianne was really smart, and that was kind of her thing. Yeah. Was Christy the one who's like, parents were divorced and her mom had a boyfriend?
Oh, maybe so.
I can't remember.
Oh, hold on, wait. Look, I'm looking right now on Wikipedia.
Oh boy, what could go wrong?
Christy, I was gonna see if it said. So they're all like middle schoolish age, like between 12 and 14. I think. Yeah, is probably right. It says she's known for her great ideas as well as her bossiness and big mouth.
Okay.
She likes to be in charge. Well, I get that. And she was one who founded the club.
Okay.
So that kind of makes sense. But anyway, they were just this. If you were a preteen during this time and you read these, you probably thought about how to start your own babysitting club. Yeah. Correct?
Oh, definitely. And who you could start it with and whose phone number you would put on the thing and what days you would meet. It was so cool
because they had like this whole business model, right? Like had this phone list. They had like files they kept on the kids, I think, right?
Yeah.
And they had like these little bags they'd bring with them with like stuff to entertain the kids with. Yeah. And then they'd have a little adventure. It was... I don't know. We had to just say Babysitter's Club.
Yeah, that was a really good one.
Yeah, Babysitter's Club book. And then they had a series not too long ago too, right?
Yeah, I want to say it was on Netflix.
Yeah, because I remember I walked in and Cooper was watching it, and I didn't know what he was watching, and I was like, "That looks like the Babysitter's Club." He's like, "'Cause it is."
He's like, "Yeah, wasn't Alicia Silverstone on it? Maybe
she was the mom. Yeah, one of their moms.
Yeah,
yes, which also makes me feel old.
Oh, by the way, I looked up Rachel McAdams. Yeah, she's 45, so she's older than us.
Okay, not by much.
45 right now. She was born in 78.
Okay, so she's 2 years older than me.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Nobody can correct us on that now.
Yeah,
we got that right.
Already did it. Corrected
I'm sure we
ourselves.
already got like 100 other facts wrong.
Yes.
So anyway, we have to say Babysitter's Club. So what is your number 2 then?
Okay. So mine are kind of not a series of books, but an author.
Okay.
And the author is Danielle Steele.
Okay, so let's clarify. This is not an author who writes for young adults.
No. So Danielle Steele, here we go. I have some info on her.
Yay.
Wow. Danielle Fernandez Dominique Shulin Steele.
That's her long name.
That's her full name.
Pretty.
She's an American writer, best known for her romance novels. She is the best-selling living author and one of the best-selling fiction authors of all time with over 800 million copies sold. And as of 2021, so she's still alive and writing, she has written 190 books, including more than 140 novels.
Now, for y'all that don't know this, Katie is an author writing a book. Can you imagine writing 180 of those?
No. And actually, my next note says, as a writer, I am astonished.
Oh, there you go.
That's literally what it says.
Well, there you go.
She has produced several books a year, often juggling up to 5 projects at once, which I do feel that because I have a lot of project going on at all the time.
Yes, you do.
But all of her novels have been bestsellers, including those issued in hardback.
Oh my God, hilarious.
So why was young Katie reading Danielle Steele, you might ask?
Yes.
So let me tell you, my parents, and they would admit this is fine to say, were pretty conservative and strict about most things. Mm-hmm. Music, TV, curfew, all sorts of things. But they did not care what we read.
I love that so much.
Now, of course, they would have drawn the lines, well, somewhere. I don't know. But my mom would read Danielle Steele, and we had several bookshelves in our house. And when she would finish a book that she had purchased, she would just put it on the bookshelf. And I could read anything I wanted on any of the bookshelves. And so I would take those sometimes and read them. And I would say, age-wise, I was probably 11, 12, 13, probably. Honestly, I think by the time I was older, 15, 16, 17, I was just reading I was assigned in school or sort of spin-off authors. Yeah. I got really into beat poets and read all those books. And so I think it was just a couple years in there. And I also, this funny little component, I was homeschooled for 3rd through 6th grade. So I think towards the end of that, I was reading them too. Just home all day reading Danielle Steele books. And so I wrote it down because I looked it up. There was one I remembered with a blue cover, and I couldn't remember the name of it. I just remember reading it. I remember putting it back on the shelf. So I looked through her bibliography online, which is very long.
Oh, yeah, extensive.
But I think I found it.
Oh, what is it?
I think it was 1987's Kaleidoscope, which I wouldn't have read in 87 because I was 5.
Yeah.
But it's possible it sat on that shelf for, however many years. So the story, and I think this is it based on the summary, the story revolves around 3 sisters born to a French mother and an American GI father. The father kills the mother and then completes suicide. I changed some of the wording there. The story features the events of each girl's life. Separated after the death of their parents, each one is raised quite differently. They are later reunited by an estranged family friend, the lawyer, who placed them in the homes where they spent their childhoods. They later find out that he is part of the reason their father killed their mother. That's the full summary.
Wow. Okay, wait. I'm confused. I've never read a Danielle Steele book.
Yeah.
I remember my grandma read some, but my grandma mostly read Harlequin romance novels.
Yeah. So they weren't that far.
Okay.
So I don't know. Do you read?
But were they all romance?
I don't think all of them were.
Okay.
And if I read this one, this is obviously, they might have had romantic parts in their lives, but this is a novel. This. So maybe my mom skewed toward those, but I do remember reading about sex and stuff like that.
I love how you just whispered that into a microphone. That's a whole other episode we'll have to talk about.
Yeah, we will. But I do, but it must not have been this book because I remember reading this one. And I don't think she went as far as Harlequin romance.
Okay.
I think it was components of the bigger story, which is probably why they were bestsellers because there was really good, generally, storylines. I would kind of compare it to maybe a Hallmark movie in the lightness of the story.
Got it.
Well, not this one. Geez, not the one I just read.
Some.
But sort of.
Maybe a Lifetime movie?
Yeah, maybe Lifetime. Okay. Maybe Lifetime's better. But yeah, I don't know if you read the contemporary writer Colleen Hoover.
I have, and I don't really enjoy her much.
I would say they're similar. Their styles are similar.
There are plot lines, but it is a lot of romance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of just we're in a fancy place and we're, have a fancy job and, a lot to do with wealth and things along those lines. So in fact, I looked up, it said why she was successful. Let's see. Here we go. Her recipe, Danielle Steele's recipe for success. Her books often involve rich families facing a crisis, threatened by dark elements such as prison, fraud, blackmail, suicide. She's also published children's fiction and poetry. That's a little different. As well as creating a foundation that funds mental illness-related organizations.
Oh.
Her books have been translated into 43 languages, 22 adapted for television, including 2 that received Golden Globe nominations.
Well, okay.
And as of 2024, she is 76.
All right, Danielle,
living over in New York City. So, yeah, and I guess she got into writing these because her parents gave big dinner parties. So she must have come from some level of wealth.
Kind of money.
And it gave her an opportunity to observe the habits of living in wealth and fame. Her parents divorced when she was 8. She was primarily raised by her father, and she rarely saw her mother.
Well, so I'm sitting here thinking maybe her books are kind of like soap operas.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think so.
Probably like that.
And
like you have things happening. There is romance going on, but there's also like drama.
It's drama.
Of like outlandish proportions.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. Like she didn't just write about everyday things. She wrote about
rich people murdering and such.
Absolutely.
Got it.
And why did this person, kill themselves or steal the money or run away or whatever? And I think that was sort of what grabbed people.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're particularly difficult to read either. So you could read through a bunch of them. But anyway, that was my second one.
Danielle Steele. I can't judge you because I was reading Stephen King books when I was not much older than that. Yeah. Which he's not on my list. Anyways. Okay, Danielle Steele, I love it. So, like I said, I cheated. So I'm going to end up having more than my allotted number. But that's fine. Another author I love that I kind of lump into the category of Judy Blume is Beverly Cleary.
Yes.
Do you remember Beverly?
Is that the Ramona books?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, the Ramona books. So that was also a series, and there were a bunch of Ramona books. Ramona was this little firecracker of a little girl. She had a big sister named Beezus.
What? I don't remember that.
Mm-hmm. I can't remember.
What was her name?
It was Beezus. Beezus. Now, I don't remember if her name was something else, and like Ramona called her that, and then it just stuck like a nickname, like kind of like the Fudge books. But I loved those books so much. The first one was written in 1955.
Really?
Yes. And to be fair, these have really withstood the test of time because, again, my kids had them and they loved the Ramona books.
Wow.
1955. The first one was about her and her sister, so it was called Beezus and Ramona. Then the next one didn't come out until 1968, and that was Ramona the Pest. And then they had more after that. I won't name them all because there's a lot. But here's the official summary of the very first book in the series. Okay, 1955.
Wow.
Big sister Beezus Quimby tries to be patient with her 4-year-old little sister Ramona, but it isn't easy. Not when Ramona powders her nose with marshmallows and invites her nursery school class to a party without telling her family. Sometimes Beezus doesn't like Ramona, but the girls are sisters, and that means they will always love each other, just not every single minute.
Oh, that is adorable.
I don't know. I guess there's like a trend here. I like loved books where the younger sibling was annoying. I was the younger sibling.
You're like, relatable.
But their siblings still loved them. Hint, hint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I loved those books. Ramona was just a mess, and she was so silly and outspoken, and they're just fun. They're just fun little sweet books. Then she also wrote, I'm wondering if you'll remember these because these were made into a movie, I think in the late 90s. The Ralph S. Mouse books, The Mouse and the Motorcycle. Did you ever read these?
I feel like I can see that in my head.
Yeah, so I can't remember when the movie came out. I should have probably checked that. But these also, my boys love these. It's about a little mouse. I'll read you there were 3 books. It was Mouse and the Motorcycle. Again, written a long time ago in 1965.
I thought you were going to say, again, Wheels.
Oh, and Wheels. I don't know. And then Runaway Ralph, which was 1970, and then Ralph S. Mouse was 82. So I was reading them in the late 80s, early 90s. But the first book, here's the summary of that one. A young mouse named Ralph is thrown into a world of excitement when a boy and his shiny toy motorcycle check in to the Mountain View Inn. When the ever-curious Ralph spots Keith's red toy motorcycle, he vows to ride it. So when Keith leaves the bike unattended in his room one day, Ralph makes his move. But with all this freedom and speed comes a lot of obstacles. Whether dodging a rowdy terrier or keeping his nosy cousins away from his new wheels, Ralph has a lot going on. And with a pal like Keith, always looking out for him, there's nothing this little mouse can't handle.
Oh my gosh.
So cute. Right?
I just love mice doing stuff in stories, like fictionalized mice. I mean, I guess there's Mickey Mouse. He's not really my favorite. He's fine. But I'm thinking of like Stuart Little. I don't know. And even the Rescuers. I'm just like,
I just love mice doing things in stories.
I don't know why. It's just, they're just so endearing. I don't know.
Oh, it's so true though.
It's so true.
It was so cute because he lives in a hotel. The mouse and
I love
his
that
friend
too.
And his family, which is a huge family. They live in a hotel. He's like getting older. Like I think he's like a teenage mouse or something. I don't know. And he wants like his freedom, right? So he befriends this little boy who has a toy motorcycle, which the cutest thing I remember in this book was the way Ralph got the motorcycle to go was making a motorcycle noise with his mouth. So he'd go.
Oh. What was that?
I don't know if I'm not good at lip trills. So I can't. Katie could probably do a much better motorcycle noise than me. So in the book, it said that. And so I remember reading these to my kids and they loved that when it was time. But it would stress me out because I can't do it well.
I feel like, especially if you're reading to your kids, I don't know though. My kids will call me out on things, but I feel like they're okay with it. They know what you're trying to do.
Yes. But anyway, they're really cute, fun books. And there is a movie. I said it was made not too long ago. I think it was probably made in the late 90s.
This recent movie. You guys may have heard of.
But Ralph, I loved those. They were just really cute. And of course, who doesn't want some cute little talking animal?
I'm telling you, a fictionalized mouse, a ratatouille.
Right.
He's a rat, I guess, but still, same thing.
Rodent.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
All right. What's your number 3?
Okay. So again, for something totally different from Danielle Steele, I loved Anne of Green Gables.
Oh,
absolutely loved it. This was definitely for me just sort of the aesthetic of it and this idea, that she was sort of in this seaside community. And I don't know, I just really, really enjoyed these books. And it was actually first published in 1908.
Really?
They're that old. And there are 8 novels in the series.
I've never read them. I don't
they're
even know what they're
really
about.
Great. So let's see. Yeah, here we go. I've got a description. So Avonlea is the village in which Anne resides. It's fictional, but it's based in real life. Cavendish, located on the North Shore. And this is, I guess I should have looked at this a little. Oh, Prince Edward Island. Prince Edward Island is in Canada. And it is gorgeous. Like stunning seaside, quaint.
Oh.
That sort of thing. Lots of animals, that sort of thing. I guess I don't really have a summary of what it's about, but it was just her adventures.
Okay.
And she was very independent. Kind of reminds me a little bit of like a Pollyanna.
Oh, yeah.
Like outspoken, independent, middle schoolish into teenage age, kind of feeling out life. Very, very sweet books. No real like drama or controversy. Of course, she has challenges. But these have been translated into 35 languages, over 50 million copies sold, adapted into various plays, television series, movies, musicals. There's actually one that was pretty recent called Anne with an E, which was on Netflix for 3 seasons.
Right.
Yeah, so that was an adaptation. It wasn't an actual depiction of the books, but I did watch a few. I couldn't quite get into them, I loved the book, didn't love that. So also there is an Anne of Green Gables, the musical, which I did not know about until I was researching this, but I was like, how does one be in that?
I know.
What shall I do?
You might be past the age for that.
I know.
Does she have a mom in the book?
Yes, but a lot of it, doesn't center her family. I'm sure there's older characters, maybe middle-aged characters. I'll have to check. But this musical ran every summer from 1965 to 2019 at the Confederation Center of the Arts, which is in Canada. And it set the Guinness record for the world's longest running annual musical theater production. But it ended in 2019. I'm guessing it didn't happen in 2020 because of COVID, and maybe it just didn't reopen. But I need to check it out.
I know. We need to get on YouTube.
Yeah. And
I've never read the books, though, so I have no comparison.
You would probably like them. I mean, I don't know. It's a little bit of like, because, they're written back in the early 1900s. It's a little bit of an antiquated like style of writing. But I think what I liked about that was the old fashioned nature of them, both the writing and the sort of things she did that I didn't really relate to,
right.
But I enjoyed. I mean, maybe that's why I like Danielle Steele too.
Well,
like the rich families and all the drama. Like it wasn't like my family, but I loved the Judy Blume books too, where I could be like, oh, I see myself in that.
Well, I think two lures of reading is one, escapism, right?
Yeah,
and
for
then
sure.
two, relating, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like if you can do one of those, like I'm so funny when I read books even now because I either want them to be super crazy out there, like fantasy, like wizards and stuff. Although, I don't know, y'all may not think that that's fantasy, but like super crazy out there, like fantasy sci-fi stuff. Or I want them to be like super relatable, right?
Yeah.
When it falls somewhere in between, sometimes I don't like it.
Yeah. I can totally see that.
But if it's too relatable, like if it hits too home, then sometimes I don't like that either.
Right. Because you're like, I could just live my life and not read this book.
Right.
I'm not being presented with some different version, and we're both, I mean, to state the obvious, we have a podcast, but we're storytellers.
Oh, yeah.
And so we like for me, I enjoy telling my own stories and stories of my life. But the reason I always have enjoyed being a journalist throughout my career at different points is telling other people's stories too.
Right.
And finding a way, of course, in those cases, it's nonfiction, but finding a way that it's not just the facts.
Right.
It's like, well, what's the why?
What's the why? Yeah.
What propelled you? What inspired you? What's the interesting story?
Yeah.
That like these facts are just sort of the surface level of. And so I think books that do a good job storytelling, whether that's real life or fantasy, because I can get totally lost in fantasy stuff that I just can't read it because I just don't. It's too much for me. It's too much.
Like, okay, that's too much.
And it's like the cartoons of books sometimes for me. It's
so you
too far along.
read any of the like the newer what's the one, The Fourth Wing?
I haven't read it. Okay, no. Yeah. Maybe I'd like it. I don't know. Maybe I should give it a try.
I mean, it's about dragons, but
I might have to pass on that one.
But it's about dragons, but it's not just about dragons.
Okay.
Anyway, we're talking about Xennial books.
Yeah. Moving on. Yes.
All right. So I already said 3, but now I have 2 honorable mentions. I'm just going to mention anyway. And these are so we were talking about books mostly that we read our preteen, like younger teen days. Mm-hmm. These were well, I don't know. I guess I read Judy Blume when I was like 8 or 9. But anyway, these 2 types of books, I'm going to put it that way, I liked when I was like younger, like elementary age.
Okay.
That I still love to this day. And I'm excited to kind of see Katie's reaction because I don't know how it's going to go. What's going to happen? The first thing I'm going to mention that I loved, and my kids do not enjoy this author, was Shel Silverstein. Okay. So he's a poet, and he had multiple books and books of poetry he came out with, Where the Sidewalk Ends, A Light in the Attic. One of his famous books is The Giving Tree. I used to adore that book. Like if you would ask me for decades what my favorite book was, I would have said The Giving Tree. I loved that book so much. Simple book. It's about a boy in this tree. But now I think it could be very problematic. So first, let me ask you, Katie, do you know this book?
I do.
Okay, you know The Giving Tree, so you know what it's about.
I know his books. I actually do like Shel Silverstein.
Okay,
yes.
I'm excited about that. Yes. So that'll be fun. So the premise of The Giving Tree is this little boy gets to know this tree. This sounds really weird. As he's growing up, and the tree helps him, right? He comes to the tree for apples. He comes to the tree for shelter. And basically it's all these things until I don't remember what happens at the end. But anyway, the tree dies and he cuts her down and uses the stump when he's an old man, right? Mm-hmm. But I've seen this meme recently that made me totally think about what this book is about. And it's the tree and the boy standing there with his arms outstretched, the cover of the book.
Yeah.
Okay. And it says at the top, and the tree said, "No, it's time we set some boundaries." And the tree was happy. Because every part of this boy's life. You know, he's like, I need this. And it's like, and the tree gave him this. And she was happy. It's all about this tree just giving everything she is for this boy's happiness.
Yeah.
With nothing in return and no benefit.
Yeah. That is problematic. I mean, I guess I always read it as, and you probably did too, just the way unconditional love works. Yes. I hadn't really thought of the boy necessarily, but more relating to the tree.
Correct.
That, of course, as a mother, that's an obvious one, giving all the things. But even just as a friend, as a spouse, as a coworker, you know, being able to just sort of share your gifts with others. But the book is rather one-sided.
Right?
Like if the boy could have, I don't know, done something for the tree. I mean, I know he showed gratitude, so maybe there's that, but I can see what you mean. Kind of the tree as a martyr, sort of.
Yeah. So here's the official summary of the book.
Okay.
If you grew up when we did, you probably know this book. So here it is. This moving parable for all ages offers a touching interpretation of the gift of giving and a serene acceptance of another's capacity to love in return. Every day, the boy would come to the tree to eat her apples, swing from her branches, or slide down her trunk, and the tree was happy. But as the boy grew older, he began to want more from the tree, and the tree gave and gave and gave. This is a tender story touched with sadness, aglow with consolation. So that's the summary.
Huh.
Now,
okay.
The criticism of the book that I kind of like just Googled it real quick. And it says that the book idealizes an abusive relationship.
Huh.
Because the boy like continually takes and takes and gives nothing back, while the tree is trapped in like this cycle of loving and giving all to the boy, and in the end is left with nothing.
Oof. Ugh.
Right?
I know. You kind of can't unthink it once you've thought it.
I know. So I had to say that because I was like, oh, this one, I don't know. But I still really like Shel Silverstein, and he has core memories. So look, I still have.
Let's see.
Well, so I bought his books for my kids, and they don't like him.
Interesting.
One of the fun parts of Shel Silverstein are his poems are just wacky. They're just silly and wacky. And he has basic drawings that are silly and just, they're so simple, they're profound. And I feel like that's his whole bit. Because it makes you feel like I could write poetry. I could like doodle. I could do this. Even though
it's a lot of work, and he's very like one of a kind.
He's one of a kind. He's so unique. So I was like, even like my kids wrote in this from the book. Anyway, yeah, they were not fans because I think they thought he was weird, which is probably why I enjoyed him.
Which is why you liked it.
He is weird. I mean, he writes some weird, funny, goofy, outlandish stuff, but I love it. But I mean, he also has like really just beautiful stuff. Like The Giving Tree was beautiful. And I'm going to read you a couple poems. Okay.
Okay.
So one on the very first page of the book of poetry, the poems and drawings of Shel Silverstein, Where the Sidewalk Ends. This is one of my favorites.
Yeah. Okay? It's good.
So the title of this poem is Invitation. If you are a dreamer, come in. If you are a dreamer, a wisher, a liar, a hoper, a prayer, a magic bean buyer. If you're a pretender, come sit by my fire. For we have some flax golden tales to spin. Come in, come in.
Oh, I love it.
Isn't that so cool? I just love it. And then he drew a little picture of a candlestick. So it's just such a fun way to start a book. Let me see if I can find a silly one. Here's one. Early bird. Oh, if you're a bird, be an early bird and catch the worm for your breakfast plate. If you're a bird, be an early, early bird. But if you're a worm, sleep late.
That is so good.
I mean, and then there's this one. I'm showing Katie this picture right here. Okay. It's a picture of this man and he has a head where his butt should be.
Yes.
Okay.
What is happening?
So the name of the poem is The Planet of Mars. On the planet of Mars, they have clothes just like ours. And they have the same shoes and same laces. And they have the same charms and same graces. And they have the same heads and same faces. But not in the very same places.
Oh my gosh. Which is so much more funny with the illustration. I mean, it makes you think anyway, like, wait, what? But then when you actually see the illustration, you're like, Okay.
His head is where his butt is. And then that makes you think all kinds of things. Like, where does his poop come out?
Yeah, exactly. How does he eat?
And when you're a little
How does
kid,
he sit?
that is imaginative and
It is.
creative. Like, his poems and his works are just super cool. So that was one of my honorable mentions. I'm so glad that you like Shel Silverstein.
I do. I always loved him. I remember loving him around like first grade. So I don't know if I feel like I had a teacher who read him to us then. And I don't know if I ever owned the books or not. I don't think so. I don't even think I owned The Giving Tree, but certainly like pretty familiar and have picked them up a lot, whether it was from the library or a friend's house or something.
Yay.
Yeah.
Well, my other honorable mention, and then we can talk about if you have any on your list, was Golden Books.
Yes.
So for those of you that don't know, and they still make these, by the way.
Do they? Okay.
Yes, they're called Golden Books because they're hardcover children's books, like picture books. Okay, for like young children. They're called Golden Books because the spine is golden. And I don't know. I did not even look up when they started making these, but I had some Golden Books that were like from the 50s when I was a kid. So they've been around a really long time. In fact, the one in my hands, that was one of my favorite stories, which my kids have because I've found these at like consignment sales and like garage sales. The name of this one is The Pokey Little Puppy. Do you remember
I've read that one? Yes.
It's so cute. And I'm going to put pictures of all these on our socials. Don't worry. But it says this one was copyright 1942.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That is old.
Right? So anyway, these Golden Books, The Pokey Little Puppy, I remembered I loved it so much. And like, look at the artwork. It's just so pretty. Like, it looks like it's hand painted.
It's really cute. And that puppy is so cute.
I know. It's about these little puppies. Aww. One of them is mischievous. I guess I really liked books about mischievous.
So basically that is Fudge. Fudge is the puppy. Puppy is Fudge. Yeah, but the puppy came first.
He gets his brothers in trouble a lot. And anyway, it's cute. But then I was a Sesame Street kid. Were you a Sesame Street kid?
Yes, I loved Sesame Street.
These two Golden Books, I was over the moon excited when I found them for my children. Did you have either one of these?
No.
Okay. So the first one is Cookie Monster and the Cookie Tree. And this one's kind of like teaching you a lesson to not be greedy and to share, because he finds him and this witch, or I think the witch makes the tree. I don't know. Him and this witch are fighting over this like cookie tree.
Him being Cookie Monster.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Cookie Monster. Yes. Thank you. I get excited and I can't. Anyway, it's really cute. But this was my all-time favorite Golden Book. You don't know this one?
I don't know this one.
You're gonna have to read it when we're finished.
Okay.
And for those of you who know this book, you'll know why I'm gonna tell her to read it. But the monster at the end of this book, starring Grover.
I love Grover.
I gotta love Grover.
Love Grover.
The funny thing about this book, I'm just gonna go. Spoilers for you, Katie.
Okay.
So you go through this book, and it's all about this fun artwork, whatever. And it's Grover, and he's like, looking at the title page of the book, and it's like, oh, this is a very boring page. What's on the next page? And then he's like, wait, what did the title of this book say? There's a monster at the end of this book. And he's like freaking out the whole book, telling you, don't turn the page. Don't turn the page, because there's a monster at the end of this book. Okay. So he like does all these silly things each page, because of course you turn the page. And then he's like, no, you turn the page. Then he like builds a brick wall, and then he ties up ropes, and then like it comes down, and he's like, please stop turning the page. And then at the end, he realizes he's the monster at the end of the book. And then the last line is him saying, oh, I'm so embarrassed.
That is such a cute concept for a book.
Right?
Yeah. You know what it reminds me of? This was more contemporary for my kids, were the pigeon books. Don't let the pigeon drive the bus or whatever. Yes. And they're saying in the pages, don't let him, please stop. You have to stop him, or don't do it. Don't turn the page. Don't let him drive it. Like whatever.
Oh, I love
those books are really cute. I don't think I have any honorable mentions. Of course, now we'll like wrap up and I'll be like, oh yeah.
Well, we can circle back.
We'll always circle back. Yeah, we can always circle back. But Babysitter's Club was a big one for sure. I loved that one. And then the Sweet Valley stuff, and Danielle Steele and Anne of Green Gables. I remember reading the Narnia books and just not totally loving those.
I didn't love those till I was older.
I probably, if I reread them now, would like them more. And then Harry Potter was when we were grown-ups, basically.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten any. Well, I take that back. My daughter Amelia read the whole series, but she kind of read them by herself. So my thought was, I have all these children. I'll read the Harry Potter series with them. But she kind of just devoured them on her own. And then my other kids aren't interested in them. But Tegan, she's 9 now. I think might be the one. I might be able to get, because my thought was we read them together, not even aloud necessarily. Like we both read a chapter and talk about it or whatever. I felt like I didn't have that in childhood. So if I'm going to read them as an adult, I'd rather like read them with my kids.
So you haven't read them?
I haven't read them.
Wow.
I've seen some of the movies and obviously I know the premise, but I haven't read the books.
Oh, okay. That's your goal this year. You've got to read at least one Harry Potter book, either by yourself or
either by myself or with
I will say the audiobooks are fantastic too. So, you know, I know you're
I listen to a lot. Yeah.
But the audiobooks are wonderful.
Okay.
So
maybe that'll be my path.
I read Harry Potter books as an adult, and I was one of those crazy people who was standing in line at midnight for like.
Nice.
I think I started reading them. Not when they originally came out. It was like by the 3rd or 4th book is when I started, and then I was hooked. Oh my God, I loved them. And one of the funnest parts of parenting for me was reliving them again with my kids.
That's awesome.
Except one of my saddest memories of parenting happened with my oldest, because we read the whole series together. Because we started, you know, when he was like probably Tegan's age, 8 or 9. And we would, because my kids liked me to read to them until they were older. So, which I adored. So I did it until they made me stop. So him and I read through almost to we get to the last book. And he looked at me and he said, I think I'll take this one on my own, Mom.
Oh, no.
And it was so crushing. And I was like, okay. So like he did. He read the very last one by himself. And that was it. And we never read stories together again. That was the time it was over. I know.
I feel like I've just been stabbed in the heart.
I know. And then Cooper, I think we made it through maybe 2. And then he's like, I'm good. I want to do it myself. Like,
yeah, right. That's probably what'll happen with Tegan. Or I won't be able to keep up with her. She'll be like, well, I already read 6 chapters, Mom. And I'll be like, oh, I had time for half of chapter 1, you know?
Yeah,
so
I think that was part of it for my oldest, was he just like that together time.
Yeah.
Until he didn't anymore.
Until he was like, I'm good. Yeah.
Which is normal, you know?
Yeah.
Because he was probably in 5th grade.
It is normal.
Or whatever.
It's still not fun, but it's normal.
Yeah.
I guess that's what you want
Cooper,
them to do.
on the other hand, was just like, I think we got it like 2 in, and then he was like, I would like to read these by myself now, because they are both very fast readers.
Yeah.
But I think maybe he let me hang on. Maybe he let me hang on until 3 or 4. I don't know. He'll tell me when he listens to this. Yeah,
he'll be like, Mom, it was halfway through the first book. Okay, you get it right.
They both reread those multiple times.
Yeah. Okay. Listeners, I'm sure I will hear from some of you. You haven't read
It's okay
Harry
that you
Potter?
haven't.
No, I know you won't be mad, but hopefully you'll be encouraging me to do it, because of course I've done like the Harry Potter world at Universal, thought it was super cool. Like I know I've seen some of the movies. Oh, you've never been?
Never.
And it's magical and it's awesome, but I just feel like actually reading the books would be like a moment, you know?
Yeah, because, you know, they can't have everything in there. They don't have everything. I feel like the best movie was the first.
I've seen that one.
Pretty true to the books.
Yeah.
Then the books got bigger and bigger. The older they got, and the dark, you know, they would get darker. So then they had to leave stuff out.
Of course.
The books are always better. That's just like every bookworm's phrase. Like, book is always better.
Always better. Even if the movie's good.
Yeah, exactly.
The book's always better.
I love the Harry Potter movies,
yeah.
but it's different.
It's different. And it has to be. Yeah, absolutely.
That's a different experience. Okay, so anyways, we just talked about all these books. How exciting. Some of y'all may have skipped this episode, and that's fine. Not a big deal. But we'll close it up here. So anyway, thanks for joining us on Generation in Between, a Xennial podcast. Please like us, share us, follow us, review us. Find us on Patreon. Find us on Buzzsprout, right?
Buzzsprout,
Yay.
Yeah. Yes.
We also have a link now that we mentioned in our other episode where you can give us some episode ideas, right?
Yeah. We have an episode suggestion link, which is in the show notes.
Woohoo!
But you can also find it in our link tree, which is in our Instagram and our Facebook page.
Yes.
And so it takes 2 minutes.
Yes.
Tell us as in depth as you want, or it could just be like more Disney, please, or something, or more books. That's good enough for us. Yeah. We'll do it.
We love to hear from you. So also we are working on our very first merch item, and hopefully we'll have it soon. So stay tuned.
Yeah. I can't wait for it.
So anyways, thank you for joining us. Until next time, keep on cracking those books and walking down memory lane with us.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.